if you're watching this, you pay attention to politics. The algorithm got you, got me in your feed, because you've shown an interest in these things. Most of America is not that. Most of America doesn't pay attention. The focus of today's show, and you might be watching the clip later, I encourage you to check out the live show. But the focus of today's show is on reaching those people that don't really pay attention to politics. That means we are giving them just the broad strokes. We're not lying. We are communicating reality. The reality is that Republicans are not a serious choice anymore. Anybody who is claiming to be a Republican, that they are telling you that they are not somebody worthy of paying attention to. Okay. Oopsie daisy. There we are. They're telling you they're not somebody who is worthy of paying attention to. That's fine. Good. Treat them like that. Laugh at them. Remember that now when somebody says they vote Republican, you say, "Oh, you're a space lasers person, are you? You believe in secret cabals running things?" And okay, yeah, I get what you're about. I don't really need to hear any of your thoughts on grown up things. I'm going to go talk with serious people. It's less for their benefit and more for the benefit of the people who don't really pay attention to politics who hear you talking to them. They need to have a realistic understanding. When they go do their default vote, you want them to go into the voting booth and think, "What am I? I'm a serious person, so I'm going to vote Democrat." Because that's what serious people do. That's what people who actually want all this stuff fixed. I don't care about the nuts and bolts. I don't understand how I don't know what a millage is. I just know I don't want Republican to be a clown. I don't want the government to be a clown show. And that's what I'm hearing on the streets. If you vote Republican, it's going to be a clown show. So I want serious government. We can reach people all over the country like this. Yeah, in red states, the people that really care about politics really care about Republican politics. But in all states, the largest block of potential voters are people that do not pay attention to any of this. We're going to get them. Here's why.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Hey,
so
Bo.
today we are going to talk about two messages that I got that intersect. And they deal with messaging and red states. They were both in response to that video about the Democratic Party not being great at messaging. One said, "I don't like that you said that it's just running the wrong candidate in the South. They're red states. You can't win in a red state." The other one was a question that basically asked, hey, if there was one piece of messaging you could give to the Democratic Party, what would it be? A campaign to explain that there's no such thing as a red state. Not really. So, the person who sent the message about not being able to win in the South because they are red states came from Texas. So we're going to use Texas as our example. Now, real quickly, I ran all of the numbers I'm about to go over. For Texas, I did the same thing for like Alabama and West Virginia. Generally speaking, there aren't any places that are statistically a red state. They exist, but it's places like Wyoming and Utah, okay? They're not really the southern states. So in Texas, the last statewide election, right? Abbott won. He got 4.4 million votes. O'Rourke got 3.5 million votes. That seems pretty insurmountable right there. Almost a million votes. If you calculate it out to percentages, Abbott got 54.8%. O'Rourke got 43.9%. Insurmountable. Okay. Add 4.4 and 3.5. 7.9. 7.9 million people voted. How many registered voters does Texas have? 17.7. 17.7, leaving roughly 10 million voters up for grabs there. So if you just took the normal percentages here, the Democratic Party under O'Rourke, who I would suggest is one of those candidates who lined up with the party planks, but not so much for the geographic area they were running in.
Just want to stress, theme of the show, you start treating Republicans the way that they have earned, which is not seriously. If you're the sort of person that believes in just being a responsible adult, if you're the sort of person that puts on a suit and tie to go to work, or if you're the sort of person that manages a group of people, if you're the sort of person that requires a degree to do your job, to be allowed to do your job, I'm not saying these are better people, even more responsible people when you come to an individual basis, just how these people see themselves. If you're the sort of person that exists in that life, then you absolutely are not the sort of person that votes Republican. Serious people don't vote for Republicans. Take that culture, put it in Texas. What happens to those 10 million people? Again, Democrats, left-leaning people, tend to focus on how evil, how absolutely sinister and harmful, how just destructive, how cruel Republican policy is. We should not forget that. Amongst ourselves, we should make that crystal clear. But when we are making the pitch to other people, we need them to view their identity as a voter as something that is in jeopardy. We need them to view their identity as a voter to be rewritten. Because right now, a bunch of people that consider themselves traditionalists, old-fashioned, I'm not obsessed with politics. Look, I vote conservative because I'm a conservative person. No. What they mean is they vote conservative because they're a serious person. Change that. If you're a serious person, now you vote Democrat, of course. Of course. And if you vote for Republicans, okay, so you obsess over what people do in privacy. Got it. You don't care about running things. You're a space lasers person. Okay, yeah, you think you're obsessed with conspiracy theories, and you live in a moldy basement. You're not trusted with anything of importance in life. I understand who you are. Yeah, you're a clown. Sure. That's what we need to be hitting them with. Because especially in a place like Texas, that's going to affect people to their core. And you're going to get pushback, certainly. But you have the benefit of it being the truth. So you are going to start having people who say, especially if we make it a point to culturally do this, you're going to have people that say, I don't really follow politics. Look, I just vote Democrat because I want the country to function, and then I go back to work like everybody else.
O'Rourke, very open about being anti-gun.
Rightly so.
In Texas. That hurt him a lot. Okay, but you take the 43.9% that he got. Let's just say 40% to keep the math easy. That means there's 4 million Democratic voters in that 10 million.
Oh.
In order to win, the Democratic Party has to get 1 out of 4 of those voters to show up. That's it. That's it.
Or or to get 1 out of 4 of the people that would vote against them not to show up because it's too embarrassing to vote for a Republican. Yeah, in the ideal, we build our future enemies. God help me. We build our future political enemies' base for them. And we say, vote Democrat. Just vote Democrat if you're a serious person. And vote in the general, but not in the primary if you don't care that much. But more realistically, what will we accomplish? We'll get people that don't want to be embarrassed simply withholding their vote. Because if they cannot see Democrats as a reasonable conservative alternative, and by the way, about half of Democrats are conservative. If they cannot view that, if they can't get over the old stereotypes, at the very least, we need them to accept the new stereotypes, which is you are a clown if you support Republicans. You have no idea. Saying you support Republicans is the same as saying that you don't understand how the world works.
Red states don't exist, not the way people think they do. And I would suggest that out of that 10 million, there's actually a higher percentage of Democratic voters. People who didn't show up because they didn't think it was worth it, because they can't win, because it's a red state. It's self-reinforcing. The votes are there. They have to create enthusiasm, which is what I said in that messaging video. You have to run people that the people in that state really want to vote for. You got to get them to show up. That's how it can be done. Habit is not invincible. I mean, when you think about a red state and you have just this small fraction of people showing up, they're not enthusiastic about him either. This same thing holds true in other places. And the Democratic Party does it all the time. In Florida, they had a candidate that was moderately pro-gun and pro-plant. Didn't make it through the primaries. Would have been a really good candidate for Florida. Maybe not on the national level. That doesn't align with the Democratic values everywhere, but the Democratic Party is a coalition. Red states, they're not really a thing. Texas can be flipped blue. All it takes is for people to show up. They have to show up in greater numbers. A greater percentage of the Democratic Party has to show up to vote than the percentage of the Republican Party that shows up to vote. It's not impossible. It's not like the numbers don't exist. There are enough Democratic voters in Texas to beat a statewide Republican candidate there.
Wholeheartedly agreed. Let's talk about appealing with this new paradigm. We just assume that if somebody says they are a serious voter, they're not going to vote for Republicans. So treat everything like that. If somebody presents themselves to you as a serious voter, and you ask them what candidates they support, be performative. If they say, well, I like DeSantis because, be like, what? Wait a minute, you actually care about policy and you're considering any Republican? Really? You're the space laser party, huh? The trans panic party. Okay. But then you got to take it farther. You have to actually make pitches to people. Well, you can. We're no longer anti-gun. We're pro-responsible gun ownership. When you're talking to them, you are pitting them now against the cartoon versions of themselves that have been calling the shots. Say, I don't know any Democrats that are anti-gun. I truly don't. I only know of a lot of Democrats that are for protecting the rights of responsible gun owners by making sure irresponsible gun owners don't ruin it for everybody. That's how you pitch gun reform. If you are Beto O'Rourke, that's how you do it going forward. Say, I'm trying to protect the rights of responsible gun owners. I don't want punks out there with their, their assault rifles, firing them into the air, making a scene, making it be so that we cannot walk down our streets safely. No, I'm for responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership means responsible gun owners want laws that make sure only the responsible people can have guns. If you want the gun that was promised to every American with the Constitution, with the misreading of the Constitution, then sure, every American has the right to a Kentucky flintlock pistol. Made in the early 1800s, that would be the earliest gun that an American would have a reasonable expectation to be allowed to have. With no questions asked. But an assault rifle, no, that's only for a responsible person with a license. Someone who owns a gun safe. Or a room dedicated to the storage of that gun. And it's got a lock on the door. And that key is in the possession of the person who is licensed to own the gun. Of course. That's how we talk about these things now. Serious adults talking to children, in other words. Marijuana. Look, I understand there's lots of fanatics that don't know anything about how the world works in the Republican Party. I'm pro-business, however. I'm pro-personal responsibility, which means I believe that people can make choices for themselves about what they put in their bodies. I'm not going to be like one of these temperance people that wants to outlaw booze, I assume, as well, because that's way harsher on the body than weed. And I'm certainly not anti-business like these Republicans are. I'm certainly not pro-cartel like all these Republicans are. Americans smoke weed. We do. We love it. Americans also love another kind of green. They love money. And every state that legalizes weed gets a huge boom in business, a massive boom in tax revenue, and all that money that goes to buying legal, good old-fashioned American weed. All that money stops going to cartels, which sell weed to Americans illegally. That's how you appeal to those voters. You don't talk about, decency. You don't talk about the fact that we do use weed as an excuse to put black people in prison and to have slavery in 2023. That's true. We do that. But we address it in a way that appeals to people that viewed themselves as heartless but practical. If you are indeed the heartless but practical voter, well, there are heartless but practical reasons to vote for good legislation, such as responsible gun ownership, such as being pro-business, such as making cartels get less American dollars. It's not terribly hard because our competition are people that are raving lunatics. And it is exhausting to live amongst raving lunatics. And the longer this cult sticks around, the more they demonstrate to everyone that they have no idea what they're doing. Kevin McCarthy is a clown. running a clown show in the House. We're going to boot him out in 2024. We're going to do so in large part because we are going to sway a hell of a lot of people that don't pay very close attention. Because now we know Republicans are clowns. And see what y'all have to say.